Yo, welcome everyone to the We Are Gamers series. We're starting a new 1v1 matchup series with some of our gaming friends. Oh, excuse me. Getting a little choked up thinking about it. So, we're doing a series with gamers, having interviews so you can see the faces behind the gamers. My name is Champ Tone, aka Sykosys. I'm a gamer who has a passion for Jesus and gaming. Today we will be starting our first 1v1 with other gamers. I said that already and I'm saying it again like a fool cuz this is our first podcast. So, we're just we're just trying to get things going. So, thank you for letting us share your space, letting us grace your space this day. Today's guest is none only than Avanteguarde. Welcome Avante.
Hey, thank you, Psych. Thank you very much, man.
So,
I feel honored being the first guest, getting that ice breaking interview out of the way. Feels good, man.
thank you. Yes. It makes it a lot easier when it's someone you know. It's not as intimidating or I'm nervous enough as I think I'm sweating for some reason. It's so weird. Yeah.
And it's just us two. There's no one else.
It's just us two. I know.
No one else listening. Don't worry about it.
Oh man. All right, so let's get right to it, man. So as as we discussed, this is just really a series so that people get to know the people behind the gamer. You know what I mean? Like
Love it.
because we are gamers. We are gamers, but we're also people. You know what I mean? So
Indeed.
what is your name? What do you prefer? Your gamer name or your regular name? Like tell people your first name if you please.
Yeah, my real name is Seth. Um, I'm probably the only Puerto Rican with a Jewish name you will ever run into, with the exception of maybe your son's middle name because we share that.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
my first name is Seth. That's my real name. My gamer name has been for a very long time Avant-Garde,
Mm,
but my close buddies and people who actually get to know me online affectionately call me Avante, and I'm okay with that. I like any and all versions of that. If it fits, it works. I like it. So anyone can refer to me as Avante, and I'm okay with it.
nice. So why avant-garde? Why choose that? Is that your only name that you use online or do you have like spin-offs of your primary name? You know what I mean? Or is it just you are avant-garde? That's you. Because I know you also have a Twitch channel. And if you're listening, you should give this man a follow, twitch.tv/avant-garde, just like he said. So what meaning does that name have? Like why did you choose it?
Oh, fun fact. This name has been with me for a very, very long time, but it wasn't my first name. Actually, when I started gaming on PC, uh, it was a transition from console, which probably most people have that kind of path. We start on console first because PC gaming, when you and I first started gaming, did not exist, especially
Mm.
not in the way we have it now. The gaming that we first got introduced to was console. So when I made the transition over to game online to do an online gaming persona, my first game that I started playing was actually Counter Strike, and I
Nice.
was terrible at it. I was not good. My KDA was definitely negative, but I had so much fun with it because I wasn't playing competitively. I was just playing because I really liked it, and it's actually one of the few games that my sister got into too.
Mm.
And my first online name that I came up with was on Steam when I first signed up for Steam and was playing Counter Strike. It was the man, what version was it? It's not the one that's being played now. It's not Source, it's not Global. It's way before that, like 1.5 or whatever
The
that version
original
was.
the original Counter Strike?
The
Yeah.
original Counter Strike,
Wow.
where Scouts and Knives was a very fun map that you can hop around and try to do death match on those maps. Oh
Nice.
my god, that was crazy. Where you learn how to just hop, skip, and a jump all over the place. If you were good at the jumping,
Yeah.
you could not be killed with a knife. You would just hop with your knife, and it doesn't matter if someone's trying to scout you from the across the map with their scout and try to
Mm.
snipe you. It wasn't working because you were just hopping around, and they couldn't hit you. And then it was like inevitable. Like you would just sit there and realize, okay, I'm dead because this guy's gonna skate across the sky here and knife
That's
me.
hilarious.
My original name from that was ICU. The letters ICU with a play on the word ICU, like the
Mm,
phrase,
got you.
because it was first person shooter. So I thought that was a clever play
Mm-hmm.
on words with that. But I noticed with soon after that there was a like a huge. It ended up becoming like a huge um, gateway into other types of games like RTS and MMOs
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and and I said, I need something better than ICU because this was more of a first person shooter name. Like what can I do?
Mm.
And like you, Psych, like I really like the idea of going off grid, going off like not what's popular, off
Mm-hmm.
meta before we
Mm-hmm.
knew what meta was. And I said, I want a name that kind of signifies that kind of a good
Mm.
definition of like what it means to be off grid. And I actually looked in the dictionary and I said, okay, Maverick sounds very, very corny. So I'm never gonna call
Maverick.
myself a
Yo,
Maverick
that's
as
a
I
great
looked at
name.
it. As I looked at it online, I'm like, there's no way this is not gonna fit for me.
Oh man.
So at the time, I was living with my parents, and my father still had his dictionary from when he was in college. And I said, let me see what I can find in this dictionary.
Interesting.
And I opened it up, and I think I must have started with the A's first.
Mm.
I must have just went with A and just was thinking of like, how am I going to systematically go through this?
Mm.
And
Mm-hmm.
and I came across avant-garde. Now I
Wow.
knew of the phrase avant-garde, um, and because I knew it had to do with music and art.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at the definition, it was very much, yeah, music and art, but you're off the beaten path. It's not popular. It's very unorthodox way of listening or creating jazz music or creating
Mm.
art. And I said, "Oh, that's
Wow.
perfect." And the spelling was like an old French spelling of it. It's not the modern day version of how we spell avant-garde.
Right.
It was like
I love
it
the
was
way
like
it's spelled. Yeah.
it's like a 17th century French version of that spelling of that phrase.
Mm.
So
Well,
I said, boom, that's it. I'm going with this one.
that's
Avante
awesome.
Garde is how people would pronounce it if you had no idea what you're
Oh,
looking at.
right, right. That's where Avante comes from. From that
Yeah,
first part, they're like, "Oh,
yeah,
Avante," which is so
right,
funny. That's
exactly.
awesome. So, if you don't mind, would you mind telling us your age? I know for some people it might be an issue. You can give us the age bracket you're in if you're not comfortable with sharing your age.
Listen. I ain't got no shame in my game. According to these young bucks, I'm a boomer.
Lol.
Uh, at 40, at 40 years old.
40 years old.
I'm a
Jeez.
boomer at 40 years old. I'm a baby boomer at 40
That's
years old.
so funny. So when did you do you remember when you actually started gaming?
Pitfall for Atari. I can't
What?
I can't remember how I even had an Atari system in the house growing up, but I remember the first game I played was on that red button black joystick controller
Yes.
on
Yes.
this in this on the Atari, and I don't even remember which Atari version I had. All I
So
remember
good.
was playing Pitfall and keep falling in the damn pits. I couldn't reach the freaking rope, bro. I was trying to jump and I would miss the rope, and it was like I don't know if I'm good at this game. You try to hop the alligators and everything, and then I got upgraded to Star Wars, Empire Strikes
Mm.
Back, the
For Atari.
Atari. Yep,
Nice.
yep.
Yes, I know that game.
It was like the ultimate like side scrolling like Star Wars
Mm.
game where you had to you're in your little fighter jet. I don't know
Mhm.
what model fighter jet because you're a pixel on the screen, so I don't know
It
what
was
model you're supposed to pretend to
that
be.
was a speeder. That was a speeder because you were
Oh, I
fighting
see.
against the
Yes, that's
walkers.
right. Yeah,
Because you were
and
going against the
you
walkers.
had
I
to
know
you had
that
to
game.
blow up the walkers, yeah,
Yep.
and you had to make sure you hit the vulnerable spot that was flashing on the
That
screen.
was flashing and it was usually behind them. Like you
Right,
had
and
to yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you had to fly underneath and around to get
Right.
some of the weak spots. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to kill the whole thing on time as a
Wow.
side scrolling to you because you had to eliminate them. Otherwise, they would just like overwhelm you. It would get to be too many. They would stack on top of each other, back to back. Like if you were to like take too long. And that's how I first started. I remember, you know how vividly I remember this was that the TV it was connected to was those TVs that were in a cabinet, like in a
Yeah.
on the floor, not a cabinet like an entertainment system with drawers. This thing was its own in its own wood. Like you would just open it up
Yes,
and it was the
yes,
TV,
and weighed a
tube
ton.
TV, and it weighed a billion tons. And you just sit on the floor in front of it and connect it to that kind of TV. That's when I started.
Wow. So what was it about video games that drew you to play them? Like what was the draw? Like you did you just see it? I know this is an interesting question because usually it's just like, oh, I just wanted to play it. But what was it that drew you? Was it, or was there anything that actually drew you? Like you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a good question. In the beginning, and I think this evolved, this changes with time.
Mm,
Like as a gamer, uh, I think my journey of it started one way, and it's not the same way as it is now. So the draw for it now for me is different from when I first was playing Pong and Star Wars Empire Strikes Back and Pitfall. It was totally
mm,
different. I think only because, and I say that because um, I just remember it being like a
mhm,
thing to have, like a really nice thing to have. Like, hey, I have my playing outside in the park, and I have my basketball
mm,
that came later on, and then I always had this thing that was like uh, the intuition and the interaction of it was
mhm,
the draw in the beginning. Like
mm.
ET phone home, like, hey, I got to collect the pieces of the phone for me
That
to get
that
away.
that
I
crazy.
didn't care about max score. I didn't care
Mm,
about at that time you don't care about graphics. You don't care about,
yeah.
the ease of use of the controller and where the buttons go. You have one button
One
and the
button
joystick.
and the joystick. Yeah, that's right.
So it was none of that. So it was the idea of like the concept of maybe a storytelling that's behind it
Mm,
or competition later because Pong became a thing where you were able to fight someone else or play against someone else, even if it was the computer.
mhm,
So in the beginning, it really was just the I guess the escapism was more the draw than like competition or high score or aesthetics or graphics.
mm. That's wild. That's interesting. So when you started gaming, what was your family's reaction to gaming? I mean, it sounds like you were pretty young when you started gaming. So were they ambivalent about it? Were they like, "Oh, did they try to limit your gaming?" What was their general reaction? Cuz I know this is an interesting question cuz depending on culture and, where you grew up. Because, like you said, gaming for some people, like for you, it was like a cool thing to have at the same time of the draw of the interaction that it gave you. But, did your family join in with you? Like, were they like, oh, let me play with you and stuff like that? Or, just how was their reaction?
That also changed with time. In
Mm.
beginning, when it was in the Atari days and like the Nintendo days, when I was able to get a Nintendo, um, there really wasn't that much like nothing that I can remember that was like a conversation. There was no like,
Mm.
hey, that's too much, or hey,
Mm-hmm.
let me join you. It was none of that stuff actually. It was just very much something that I would do on my own with no real like any kind
Mm-hmm.
of recourse or any kind of anything. Like there was no because what it was for me. I think the balance that I had with being outside and riding a bicycle and then being able to come in and play the video game um kept it so that I think my parents didn't need to like step in and like you know if I was to get punished, no video games because it was never like a thing that they saw was like that heavy at the time or
Mm.
that much of an influence at the time because it was a good mix. Um,
Mm. Interesting.
I feel like maybe I feel like I was really left to game all the way up until I had the Sega Genesis. Up until the Sega Genesis, uh, where I was
Uh-oh.
playing Mortal Kombat 3 and
Uh-oh.
playing Sonic the Hedgehog. Like
Mm.
at that point, now there was so much momentum in it that I think at that point, I was probably the hi- the tail end of middle school,
Mm,
sixth, seventh,
mhm,
eighth grade.
mhm,
That maybe at that point that my mother would be the person more than my father to step in and say, like, all right, that's time to eat or whatever. Hey, that's enough.
mm,
Um, uh, and so I don't think there was any like culture interference with it, at the time. I
mhm,
guess because there was no media talking about the influence of gaming on your children.
mhm,
It was just my parents going on what they saw with me and my behavior, that there was no other outside influence or culture at the time, not
mm.
until I was in high school. When I got to high school, then it became a different story.
All right, that's interesting. So that actually leads into my next question about, what is your heritage and cultural background, if you don't mind sharing that with us.
I'm Puerto Rican, both sides of my family. My father and my mother, both Puerto Rican. So
And
I'm 100% PR.
and you were born here in the United States. You're
Boricua, I'm New Yorican, bro.
New Yorker, my man. So has there been any positive or negative impact that that culture has had on your personal gaming experience in any way? I mean, if not, there hasn't, but
That's a good question. I don't think I don't think there was anything that was uh, cultural that when it came time to come to terms with maybe what my parents were thinking about it that interfered. I think, and I think it was probably more the opinion of my mother because she was more vocal about it
mm,
that came into play, but her opinion wasn't a cultural opinion.
what do you mean? Can you elaborate a little?
Yeah, so she was very much a person that was a strong advocate for balance.
Mm.
And she really liked and favors balance. Balance appeals to her. Having
Oh,
a
okay.
balance in anything that you're doing or anything that you you would participate in or that you have interest in. Balance was her most important thing that she would promote if there was ever a conversation about a time suck into something. So
Mm,
that's good and bad. So the good part of it is moderation is important for everybody. I think whether
mhm.
it's gaming, whether it's food, whether it's exercise, moderation is very important, and I agree with
Agreed.
that.
Agreed.
The bad side of it is if you wanted to get good at something, you have to allow the time
Mm,
suck to happen. And
interesting.
that was not allowed. So there was always something,
Mm,
whether in basketball or in gaming, where if I put a tremendous amount of time in it, something was said and there was issue there, and it caused me to stop putting time or cut time off from what I wanted to do. And so that part of it, I don't think was cultural. I think it's very much just her personal opinion on what it should look like in my life as a young man. Going into my early adulthood as a teen in high school.
wow, that's interesting. So she understood the yin and the yang. She must have been a big Bruce Lee fan. I mean, just that's interesting. That's really interesting. That's good to know, man. So you said you play video games now, right? You're still gaming, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And I know this personally because I think we literally played it yesterday and the day
Yes,
before
we did.
that.
Yeah, pretty much.
So if you don't mind sharing, what games are you into right now?
Um, the I have a good rotation right now going on. When I squeeze time in, I don't have as much time as I would like.
Mm,
Uh, I have a full time job, a part time job, and a fiance, and then other things that I'm trying to do to um, kind of like a self improvement or like career based decisions and goals that I'm um, uh, trying to like be accountable to.
nice.
But with that being said, I fit my time into rotating Diablo 2, the original, the resurrected version now.
Indeed.
Um, the Destiny 2,
Mm,
uh, and then League of Legends.
nice. Wow, you have excellent time management because you just mentioned stuff that people have a hard time that don't even play video games. That's awesome, bro. So what is so let's move on to this next question though. What is your all-time favorite game that you can say without a shadow of the doubt, if one even exists, without a shadow of a doubt, is your number one favorite video game
Sure. Question. Favorite video game?
that
Shoot.
like it instills feelings of nostalgia, happiness. You didn't even have to be good at it. It's just your favorite game to play. And you might not play it, because it might have been on an older console or something like that. But when you think about it, you think about it and you're like, man, I missed that game. Or even if you still play it because you play it and you just love playing it.
I've realized that the games that I played the most didn't necessarily translate to my most favorite in that regard. The
Mm.
nostalgia of a couple of games that I've had uh, wasn't based on the fact that I was able to play it anytime I wanted to, or was able to play it a lot. I have really good memories of games that I really enjoyed playing that were not my favorite games. Um, and I think to this day, the memory uh, that sticks with me for that would cause this game to probably be my favorite um, is really based on the opposite. The fact that I was not able to play it a lot, but when I did play it, it was like the most amazing feeling being able to co-op with other people and play this thing that seemed impossible to beat.
Oh, wow.
Um,
What game is that?
and that's X-Men the arcade game.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
X-Men the arcade game where Colossus was one of my favorite characters to play. Nightcrawler was one of my favorites. Where you could pick Wolverine, Dazzler, Cyclops, and all this other that game. And then let me tell you something. Ninja Turtles is very close because it's the same premise. You had four or five characters that you can just pick from, and like it's the same premise for both, but the the superpowers, being able to have an ultimate in that kind of co-op setting,
Mm.
edges it out on the Ninja Turtles because that would be a good close second. But that X-Men game, it was so fun. Like the fact that you could walk up to the cabinet and actually for a minute or two be teammates with strangers that had the same goal. You had the same vision of where you wanted to be. You had the same amount of fun. You're looking at the same thing, and you had to team up and play this right. Otherwise, it was a disaster. Was
Yeah, word.
freaking amazing. It was freaking amazing.
X-Men the arcade game. I remember that was actually a really 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 good game. Well, so I'm going to transition into the next question because the next question is really, if you have a gaming memory that you'll never forget. And I know that really sounds like one of them, but I mean, is that it? Or cuz I mean, that was
No, absolutely not. I'll tell you
oh
what.
man,
I'll tell you my favorite
hit me with it.
memory of all time.
Of all time. So this is the memory of all time, of all lives, of all experienced lives ever lived. Yes, go for it.
Yes. I'm a certain character in this particular video game, and I'll reveal it at the end. And I'm playing with a good buddy of mine. And this game is real chill. It's very non-stressful, like certain other games. League of Legends, the games that I play, League of Legends, and this game is very chill, very fun to play. The creativity behind it is amazing because it allows you to be very creative, and and I think we were just one of those in one of those grooves where we just we're finishing a mission, and uh we're we're just now like enjoying the the scenic route of this particular game. Like we're just kind of looking at the graphics, looking at it's an open world, and and we get up to the edge of on this cliff, and we turn and we look straight out over the cliff, and the camera angle can be changed, and we change it to look out, and there's a sunset happening
You're gonna make me
in
cry,
this
bro.
game.
You're gonna make
And
me cry.
and World of Warcraft is a game that I played with you, in which we were the Tauren and the troll,
Yes.
and we stand next to each other, and it looked like how we probably would look in real life.
Yeah.
One is like bigger than the other and standing next taller than the other, and we're looking out, and we screenshot it, and there's a like a the sunset hitting our characters in a certain way, and it's like we just finished a particular quest, and now we're chilling, and it kind of feels like a moment of reflection, a moment of peace. We're chilling, camaraderie, brotherhood in that moment, and we
Mm.
screenshotted it,
Oh my
and
god.
that's my favorite memory of all time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We fought a whole bunch of trolls. It was like a Mayan pyramid. I remember that.
Oh yes, and we
We
got to the
climbed
top.
all the way to the top.
Yes.
We were like, yo, this was really crazy because we were just it was just nonstop fighting. Just
Right. That's right.
nonstop. I remember you have that screenshot. That is so awesome. Wow. That's so good. Oh, those are some good times,
So
man.
good.
And we
So
make we make so many good times
good.
together.
Yeah. Agreed.
Oh man, this was great. So as we're wrapping it up, just one last question. More of a technical question actually. So you've played games since the Atari. So you've literally played almost every major generation of technology that was available. So how do you feel what the evolution of technology itself has impacted your own gaming experience, video gaming experience? Has it been more in a positive or in a negative way? Because yeah, just let me
I, I,
know. Go ahead.
yeah, I like that question because um, the same people that would have their own opinions about games and gaming have very similar opinions about technology too, and I don't agree with either one of those school of thoughts. I actually think that technology impacted my gaming experience in a extremely positive way. Like I just think, uh, man, there's so many things to say, but let me keep it to just a couple. The fact that people can actually make a living gaming is a testament to where technology has brought gaming to make it mainstream. It's amazing. I actually don't
Yeah.
hate on the fact that it's mainstream. Maybe some old timers might, they might not like it, they might not appreciate it. They might have their own opinions, but I think with all the nonsense that some of us had to go through, where this is something that we like doing, and the all the names maybe that we might be called because we were nerds about it or geeks about it back in the day, and now the geeks are running the world. It's like I completely appreciate where technology has taken it, that people can make it a living, just with the internet being what it is, and how what it did for the gaming community. It's amazing to be able to stream your games and have audiences and followings that like your personality and like your gaming skills, and
Yeah.
they come to watch your gameplay, or they come to hang out because they knew you from maybe something you did before, and they're willing to stick around because they too had their own escapism, maybe, or their own experience with gaming that's positive, so they make that connection, and there's a whole community developed because of it. The fact that from that all the way to just how whole companies and studios come together and create a product that like just makes your jaw drop on the stuff that the the boundaries that they're pushing and the things that they're trying to do. You know, the ones that we appreciate, like you know,
Mhm.
we can have a whole different conversation about microtransactions and what that did to gaming, but I think the competition that's there from studios to make a good game is very important for
Mm.
the game to be pushed. Like
Yeah.
even the
Yeah.
microtransaction conversation is important because that also pushes companies to react a certain way to it. You know, you'll have companies that want to hold on to it.
Mhm.
You have companies that know how to lean into not having to do it. You know, and that dichotomy really pushes the needle forward and pushes the power forward. The fact that we have VR now that's actually legit is amazing, and it's still in its like infancy stage. You know, with VR and AR, like that's very
Yeah.
much related, and the fact that we're there now, it's amazing. So I think technology has really impacted my gaming experience in a positive way.
Awesome. 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 That was great. That was awesome. Avante Garde, Avant Garde, my man Seth. Thank you so much for joining us today. So we're just going to wrap up. So here we have one of our gamers, one of our friends, one of our buddies, a person. He's just a person, has a full-time job, you know what I mean? And he just gaming is he loves gamers. We are gamers. We are gamers at the end of the day. So I would just like to thank everyone who's listening in. Thank you for letting us grace your space with our lovely voices. And I hope you all have a great day. Remember, Jesus loves you and you are awesome. Ganadora.